Step into love like you've never been hurt before. Step into trust like you've never been burned before.
Hello and welcome to Braveheart Conversations,
where we learn the art of love through brave and compassionate conversations. I am Jillian Landis.
and I'm Marie Wallace.
And we are your hosts today. Hello everyone, welcome to Braveheart Conversations. This is Jillian Landis and I'm here today with my co-host, Marie Wallace.
Good morning, good morning.
And we are going to be talking today about masculine and feminine energy. I'm so pumped about this. This is one of my favorite topics. But specifically, we're going to be talking about the balance between freedom and love, or freedom and commitment. There's a really juicy balance that we get to have. And often these polarities can feel like a conflict. And it's really striking this beautiful balance where we find... we find this really beautiful complement of masculine and feminine energy in the way that they are meant to be together and intertwine together. So I have a poem that I absolutely love, and I want to share with you as we begin this conversation. So this poem is by Mariella Joliska.
Yeah.
And this is what it says. He is absolute freedom, and she is absolute love. Love found herself rejected by freedom, and freedom found himself imprisoned by love. And love without freedom is attachment, and freedom without love is escape. They turned away from each other, both searching for enlightenment outside their own shadow and pain. And both love and freedom felt lonely, and they didn't feel received. Because love is nothing without freedom, and freedom is nowhere without love. But love needs to dive deep on her own, and freedom needs to show up for himself, to remember the truth of who they are and connect to their own sacred source. And instead of falling apart, they are falling together in unity.
That is yummy.
Yeah, I really, really love just that beautiful picture of both. There's this shadow side of where these two conflict, where, you know, the commitment feels like a trap, right? Love can feel like, like ownership or possessiveness, like that can get really icky and enmeshed. I want all your time.
Jealousy,
I want all your space. I want all your attention, right? That's the icky side of love. And we've probably all experienced that. Yeah. And then there's this freedom side, which that can also be its own
Unattached,
there's no intimacy there. There's no belonging. It can feel very
security.
empty. Yeah. Or like what was mentioned in that poem, escape.
Escape was a perfect word.
Totally perfect. Freedom can be escape in its shadow. And but then there's this beautiful side of how these two come together, where there is both freedom and commitment that coexist.
This is my favorite line. But love needs to dive deep on her own, and freedom needs to show up for himself.
Yeah, we get to give ourselves those gifts first. Yeah, so that feminine energy is that commitment side that wants that safety, wants that security, and the masculine is that freedom that really wants to be able to adventure and be free. Yeah.
And don't forget that we have masculine and feminine inside of us, because some people have that misconception. It's totally one way or totally another. We have varying degrees inside of us. So this is balance within ourselves as well.
And I'm really glad that you brought that up. We are not talking maleness and femaleness here. Two very different things. So we all have a balance of masculine and feminine energy, and we all have a different dominant energy. And that has nothing to do with your gender. So
nothing.
In some things, I'm very dominant masculine. And I have no desire or intention to change that. That's how I'm made. And there's lots of females that I know who are dominant in masculine
Me too,
energy,
yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that. I know lots of men who are dominant in feminine energy. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
So, and we get to also acknowledge the balance inside of us,
Or imbalance.
or imbalance. Yeah. So, I'd love to kind of dive into
This sounds
a
great.
little bit of this masculine and feminine energy balance. So, I like to share these energies kind of in a sense where they have a role attached to them so that you can imagine this easier. So if you can imagine a spectrum of 4 different roles or 4 different identities. And so you have on the feminine side, this beautiful essence of the feminine, which I call the goddess.
Yes.
Right? And she is creative, and she's all about relationships. She loves connecting, not just with people, but with nature and with spirit.
Beauty.
She's very connecting. She's very connected to everything around her. She is in flow. She is spontaneous and playful. That's her vibe. And then you have like the essence of the masculine, and this is who I call the warrior. And he is very self-assertive. He has great self-worth. He's so super confident.
Grounded.
Very grounded. Yeah. He's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's structured and he's organized. And so that's the lightness of the masculine and feminine. So back to these roles that we have. So the goddess, if you were to take her energy and remove the warrior or make the warrior very small, what happens then is she will shift into the shadow side of the feminine, which I call the victim. And the victim is someone who is easily taken advantage of. She's resentful. She feels taken advantage of, right? She's gullible and easily manipulated. And she's passive. She doesn't use her voice. And she's tired.
Always.
She's exhausted. So that's the victim identity. Now on the flip side, if you have this warrior and he does not have this goddess energy, it's very small and it's not lit up, he will go into his shadow, and his shadow is the villain. And the villain takes advantage of everyone else.
True.
The villain walks all over everyone, and he's very aggressive. And he has a big ego. Yeah. He's like a bull in a china shop.
I was going to say he's in pain, and so therefore he inflicts pain.
He inflicts pain. He's loud. He's obnoxious. Yeah. So those are these 4 roles. So if you were to look from left to right, it would be victim, goddess, warrior, villain. And what happens is we have all 4 of these inside of us. We have access to all of these things. And what happens is the shadow will always attract the shadow of the other. So the victim will always attract the villain, and the goddess will always attract the warrior. So this happens internally, and this happens, so
Externally
if
too.
I'm in a dominant victim energy, I'll attract a villain. Always, always, always. It's just a rule.
You're matching that vibration.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So the warrior energy is the doing. It's the action, right? And the goddess energy is the being. It's who you are. And the warrior, the whole reason for the warrior's doing is the goddess. So the goddess is the why for the warrior's doing. So internally, how this works is if I have a strong sense of who I am and my passion and my purpose on this planet, that's what that is. Goddess. So then I have a why for my doing, for my action, and I have a target, I have a focus to channel that energy of my warrior.
Then it's not escape, it's intentional.
Yeah. So it's this beautiful blend. So my responsibility is to both light up my goddess and my warrior, because my warrior is the protection and provision for my goddess. It holds the space for the goddess to shine. Otherwise, what happens is that goddess energy, if she is not protected and provided for, she doesn't have the resources to be who she is, she'll fall into victim. Because she has to be small, because she doesn't have anyone protecting her, providing for her. And so as individuals, what we get to do is we get to recognize where we're at on this spectrum, where tends to be our dominant place. And then do I need to really light up my goddess? Is that where I'm at? Am I in the shadow of the masculine? Or am I really in the shadow of the feminine, and I really need to light up my warrior? You know, do I need to use my voice more? And this is where I work a lot. You know, my clients, as well as myself, my journey has been, you know, my warrior was very small. And it was time to really grow that warrior energy and to get a voice and to be more confident and to grow that self-worth.
So you can share your gifts.
Yeah.
The goddess gifts.
So that my goddess could shine. And that's where I find most of my clients are too, is like, this goddess really wants to be there, right? She's compassionate and she's empathetic and she's so good at connecting with people, and she wants to shine. She wants to be alive. And so often we're so scared of lighting up that warrior because it feels selfish and it feels like all these things that we're not supposed to be. But that is exactly what we must do in order for our goddess to be alive and well. So that's this, in a nutshell, this beautiful dance of the masculine and the feminine. And
looking for balance.
Yeah, and so I'd love to just talk more about this balance between the freedom and the commitment, because this comes up a lot in relationships. Commitment can be more of like this obligation, right?
Yes.
And this loyalty.
I have to, instead of I get to.
And it can feel really stifling to this freedom aspect. And generally, this comes out in one person or the other. Like, one person is more commitment oriented and one person is more freedom oriented. What I would like for people to see is internally how even if you are the one that is like super commitment oriented, you still have this piece of you that really wants to be free. And vice versa. If you are this freedom person, you know, and you struggle with making a commitment, there's a piece of you that still really wants that security and that attachment and that belonging that you get in a commitment.
Unleashed.
So it's this both and. It's not just one person or the other. It's internally. There's this beautiful balance that's super important, and we long for both sides. So I'm talking a ton. So Marie.
No, you're doing great. I love it. I'm just listening. All your genius is pouring forth.
I would love to hear more about what you've experienced with masculine and feminine, and like this whole idea of this dance that happens between freedom and commitment. And like, even maybe it's with Joe, but maybe it's even people that you've dated in the past, and realizing like sometimes we get to realize that people are not in a space yet where they've come to this balance. Because I find that it's important to find individuals who have struck this balance, who honor and value both freedom and commitment. Because you can find people who are all into commitment.
Yes.
And you are going to feel super trapped.
Super trapped.
Super trapped.
Yes.
Or you're going to find somebody who's really into freedom, and you're always going to struggle with knowing if you're safe with them.
Well, it can even happen within us, feeling super trapped, right? Because I grew up feeling very committed, because that was a high value inside of me. And so freedom was always suppressed, had an authoritarian father, and so, you know, you do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. And so you feel trapped within yourself, because inside you can feel the goddess wanting to come out.
Yes.
She's ready. She wants to break free. She has all these ideas and dreams and plans and things she wants to share with the world. But this commitment sometimes is suppressing, and it holds her back. And so inside that struggle can happen as well.
Yes.
And quite often, and the commitment side doesn't, I mean, I feel I'm more balanced now, and the goddess does get to reign pretty cool. But as far as relationships, the goddess can feel when there's an energy in that other person that feels like it's pulling her back.
Yeah.
Right? And our wonderful friend Rafael Lopez, he talks about the masculine being the grounding, while the woman is the balloon that's floating around doing her thing, right? And so there is a balance of that commitment also being the grounding force so that she can fly and be all who she is, but still be grounded and balanced and committed.
Yes.
It's both and.
It's both.
You can have both.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find I am most happy when I get to operate in a space of like, I can go out and be super free. Like I'm trusted, right? I'm trusted to be with any people that I feel inspired to be with. I'm trusted to go and shine and kick ass, right? And it's not I'm not competing with whoever that partner is or that
Usually
friend.
I'm competing with myself.
Yeah, but I don't feel like limited in any way. I do not feel hindered. But this is also really key, I feel security is waiting for me at home. Right?
It's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, that there's trust that goes both ways. Like there's this beautiful freedom to go do and be and expand as far and fast and big as you can possibly be. There's the freedom for that, but there's always home.
And there's not an intimidation, right? That like I've experienced where if I'm too much in my freedom, that someone else feels insecure about that, or someone else feels small by that. And that's the beauty of having that, balance. Like Joe at home, he's like, go girl, you just be all you want to be. And like you said, now I can come home and go, oh,
I still belong.
I'm still here, and I still have this. And when you get to have freedom and love at the same time, it is a beautiful experience. It's divine. It's a divine appointment, and you feel blessed in your body. You feel blessed in your soul. Like I get to have it all. It's an amazing feeling. I offer that also to my partner in this particular scenario because he's allowed to express and explore things and be who he is, and grounded, and he loves his organized fancy way, but it's accepting too, and then he can go, oh, okay, and he can embrace his feminine side and not feel judged or not accepted, because the world has a way of kind of kicking you in the pants sometimes on some things like that. But it's a beautiful feeling to feel that balance and feel that you can go out there and be all who you are. And it doesn't mean that the shadow side doesn't pop up sometimes and go, who do you think you are being all that? Because that pops up too.
Yep.
Calm it down. Don't be all that.
Yeah, I think, so as we're kind of working through this as individuals, notice what comes up for you. Notice, I think for women a lot, and I guess it can be, who knows, it could be way more equal than I'm imagining, but I think my perception is that women often are the ones like, you belong to me, being kind of, and I guess, no, it wouldn't really be, like either sex would be guilty of that. But like this fear that comes up, do you fear when your partner is out doing something and they're not with you? It's this acceptance of the separate.
Exactly.
Not only acceptance, but like celebration of the separate. I love that when they're with me, but I also love when they're out there shining on their own. It's this idea of when you're, watching someone operate in their passion, they're on stage speaking, or they're, performing this sport and they're kicking ass, or like that's hot.
Watching anyone be all who they are is pretty cool.
It's amazing.
It's a celebration thing.
And that doesn't have to be a group thing. That does not have to be a partnership.
No.
I think it's amazing to watch someone operating in their own identity And that's what we gain from giving freedom, from acknowledging freedom. And then the opposite too is what comes up for you when someone does want to make things, serious. When someone wants to form an attachment, when someone wants to say, I'd like to have commitment, I would like exclusiveness. Like, does that bring up fear for you? Because these are the two opposites, right? So we get to see where that weakness is, where that insecurity is. I think today, because I've had the life experience to see the consequences of either of those.
Sure.
Like, they're both really valuable to me. Like, I don't want to be hindered at all. Like, don't put shackles on me.
Yeah.
But I also really, really value commitment. I really value, and there's such a safety in that. When someone's able to wholeheartedly and not hold back at all, but to say, yes, like, I want you and only you. Those pair together.
They pair well. And then you can feel that freedom of just unleashing all of you without feeling that you're going to lose a relationship, right?
Yeah.
So this will sound funny, but Joe's like, you can make more money than me? I don't care. Go do that. Or because there's some societal things about that. You can do all these things and just know I'll still be here at home when you're ready. And I think that sometimes society puts these values on, even still that women shouldn't make more money than men, and how secure he must feel in himself to be able to allow me to do. I mean, I don't care if he makes more money than me either, right? Both and.
Yes.
It's just free to explore, discover, be all who you are, and not feel that someone's trying to hold you down, to belong to them, it feels like squeezing things out of you.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think, this brings up for me a little bit of another shadow element, which would be like enmeshment.
Yes.
So when, like, the only thing I ever want to do is with you.
Yes. That's an addictive problem.
Yeah, and it's super common. So it's really important to have, like, a lot of different resources. Like, I have so many different mentors. I have coaches. I have friends. I have groups. I have people
Interest and activities, hobbies.
Yeah, exactly. So when your partner becomes like your only source of everything for entertainment, for coaching, for for your
flag.
Yes, for feedback, for like everything, like that's a massive red flag. It's so important to have so many different veins to meet all of those needs.
Because one partner really, if you're honest with yourself, cannot meet all your needs. I think that's a misconception, that if they're my partner, they're going to meet all my needs.
Yeah.
It's just a very big misconception.
Well, that's a big myth that's been perpetuated in our culture, by Disney movies, but it's the romance, right?
Yeah.
It's this picture of romance that we have where it's like, you're my world, you're my everything.
That's a big responsibility for the other person, too.
Yeah, it really is. It's super unhealthy. And it will crash and burn so fast. It will make your head spin. I promise.
Definitely. So I think it's really nice in our relationships that we both have different things that we enjoy, that bring us joy, that bring us, so that it's not so entangled. I think it's a relief to the other person that you have other sources of filling your cup.
Oh yeah. It's such a burden to think. Well, and what often happens is it's not just, I'm trying to meet my partner's needs. What happens is the perception is that I'm going to make you happy. Now you make me happy. And what always ends up happening, and I've watched this for years, is so I'm not capable of making you happy.
Nope.
I'm only capable of making me happy. Like, that's my responsibility. But if I act as if I can make you happy, you're going to start to believe that I'm responsible for making you happy.
Yep.
And then you're going to be pissed off.
Back. Yep.
You're going to be pissed off at me for not making you happy because I've told you I'm going to make you happy and you totally
broke
have
your
bought in.
promise.
Yeah, totally. So I can be bending over backwards trying to make you happy and you're still not happy. And so I'm frustrated and you're pissed off. And that's, I watched this dynamic over and over. And I did this early on. And so it's only in knowing, I get to show up happy. Mm-hmm. That's my responsibility, is I get to show up happy.
And two people showing up happy?
Yeah, that's magic.
Yeah, because positive plus positive equals positive.
It's magic.
It is magic.
Yeah.
Well, which goes to the old adage, you complete me. I hate that statement. There is no such thing as someone completing you. Just so you guys know, I saw it in a movie last night. I'm like, no, that is not true.
You are already complete.
You compliment me. That's a better feeling. Even energetically, if you say, oh, you compliment me, that's just, that's a lot more yummy.
Yeah, I think it's important that to be in a space where I don't need this relationship. I'm perfectly okay on my own 2 feet, but I really want it.
Yes.
Right? There's such a difference. Mm-hmm. I don't need this, but I so want it.
I know. I remember Joe telling his brother's like, he goes, Marie doesn't need me. And he goes, what? And he was fumbling around with that because he didn't understand the concept. She's perfectly fine on her own. Does she want me in her life? And yes, that's way different than needing me in her life. And and it's a yummier place to be. So so much. It feels so much better. So much lighter. So much better. Lighter. Yeah, that's it. Lighter. Yeah, so much lighter. And I just think, like, honoring this whole idea of trying to make somebody else happy or being everything that they need. What's the word I'm looking for? Hinders.
It hinders, yes. This whole freedom concept. That's where this is really beating up that masculine value of freedom. Mm-hmm. So it feels really heavy and suffocating when you're so enmeshed that you're taking on all of each other's needs. And suppressing. Yeah, it's this freedom element that is not being honored. So recognize that in order to honor this freedom value that we all hold, it's this masculine freedom need, desire, we get to look for other resources to meet our needs and resources that honor our happiness outside of our partner, outside of our friendships, or whoever you've become enmeshed with. You get to level up in meeting these needs in a variety of other sources so that you can allow that relationship to thrive in freedom. I want to just touch on the honor because I thought that's the word that came up for me, and then you said it and I just got all tickled about it. Because honor is also honoring that person and all of them. Yes. Their masculine and feminine, as well as honoring my masculine and feminine. And when we honor each other to be completely and wholly who they are, there's freedom and we get the both end again. Yeah. And so I love that word honor because it's a really beautiful way to explain what's happening in this dance that you were talking about. When I'm honoring this other person, doesn't mean I like it, because there's sometimes we may not like it, but honoring brings so much more beauty, and it's the payoff is so much better than any uncomfortableness, or because sometimes it gets squishy and a little uncomfortable, but the end result is so worth it. So if you find yourself tangled up and going, well, I don't really like that, just give it some time and give it some practice, because sometimes it's a practice, and then just see what unfolds. It's very beautiful to see. Yeah, I use the word honor a lot. Me too. It's a huge word for me. So honoring, honoring freedom, honoring commitment. Also, it's a great reframe for me when people say stuff like, well, people get hung up on selfish.
Oh, yeah.
I can't be selfish. But if you reframe it as, what's honoring to you and what's honoring to the other person, that's really the value, right?
It is a value.
And so if you get hung up on that word selfish, really reframe that into, what's honoring? What's honoring for me? And what's honoring for me is honoring for everyone. That gets to be the truth. So
I like that one. What's honoring for me honors everyone else.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yep. What's honoring for me is honoring for everyone else.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's truth. And
well, it feels true. Like it feels authentic. Very authentic.
It is. We often think that when we're being honest, and I'm totally diving off track here, but we think that when we're being honest that we're hurting other people and that it's selfish.
Yeah.
When actually the exact opposite is true. When I'm honest with people, it may hurt and it may be disappointing, but it's actually way more dishonoring to be inauthentic and dishonest and allow something to limp along. It's not fair to the other person or to me, right? No matter what the scenario is, there's so many different scenarios, but it's when I'm honest, even when it takes so much courage because you know that you're going to disappoint someone or hurt someone's feelings or whatever, but and you can speak that in love. It doesn't have to be done in meanness.
I think that's the difference, is speaking it in love allows it to be more okay.
So
because then they know that we're doing it in integrity, and then they know that we are honoring ourselves, and you can't really argue with that.
No, and you can even tie this back into what we're talking about with freedom and commitment. You may have some awareness now where perhaps your partner is smothering you, or you're smothering your partner, or maybe you're operating in freedom without commitment and you haven't committed to someone and you really have not honored that space. So this may bring up some times for you to have some conversations, right, where you get to say things like, it's not honoring for me to just be enmeshed with you, and I want to honor our separateness. And I'm going to do that by having these friends, or I'm going to have these activities that are separate from you. So, that's just one example, but you may find yourself wanting to have some of these conversations to bring some more honor into your relationships regarding freedom and commitment. So instead of it feeling selfish to say, man, I'm going to go live my own life, and not be so enmeshed with you, it is this idea of honoring. And yes, I get to look at the fact that it's not just honoring for me, like it's honoring for our relationship, it's honoring for you. Because it's not fair in that particular example, if I'm super enmeshed, it's not that they are not living their best self, I'm not living in my best self if I am
holding them back.
Yes, it's holding them back, and it's also like you have become so focused inward on your relationship that you're not experiencing life outside of your partner, which is holding them back, and it is a life experience that's not very fulfilling, and it's not impacting the world. We're here, our purpose is to grow and expand and to impact. So if we're not having an impact,
it's also holding ourselves small, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I made this my world, and I'm only impacting, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. So please know there's not a judgment on that. But if I'm here to impact the world, it's so much bigger than this.
Yeah. And this is where, like, I often will reframe with clients, what is the purpose of a relationship?
Exactly.
So the purpose of a relationship is to propel each other forward. It's a support in your life purpose. That's what relationships are. So if it's become something else where it's constantly a fight, it's constantly holding you back, it's constantly like hindering you from being, expanding and growing, we get to go back and reorient to what is the purpose of a relationship. If I'm not honoring that purpose of a relationship, we don't get to question other things. We question the relationship, right?
And it doesn't mean like we have to leave that relationship.
No.
We've talked about that in previous podcasts. It doesn't mean you have to leave that relationship. And again, you have to figure out where the energy is and how that's impacting you. It is just, take inventory.
Yeah.
How is this impacting me? Is this something that I am able to do? Because in most cases you probably can. You just need to shift something in yourself.
Right. Well, just like we just talked about, maybe it's having the awareness of like, oh, I'm not honoring freedom in my relationship. I get to shift that. And maybe that changes the whole game. And maybe that changes this whole enmeshment pattern in your relationship. And
I've seen that in relationships.
Yeah. So,
and it's surprising to them. They thought it was this big, awful, terrible. They were on their way to divorce, and that one little shift made a huge difference.
Right.
So
it can be small shifts, or sometimes you do come to the realization that your relationship is just not honoring, and it's not serving its purpose of upholding two people and propelling them forward in their life purpose and impact.
And we've talked about this too. It may be the season of that relationship.
Maybe. Yeah, many things are seasonal, and that is okay. The taboo about divorce gets to go away.
Yes.
Uncoupling is okay. It is a natural season for many people. Yeah. Okay.
Yay!
We talked a lot about a lot of things in this episode. This is one of my favorite topics, masculine and feminine energy. Of course, I'm a relationship coach, so it kind of lights me up.
Me too.
But anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you guys were all able to glean something of value. We'd love to hear your questions and comments and concerns, or how this has impacted you, or how you would like to see your relationships expand from here. And if you have any questions or want of guidance, we'd love to be there for you. You can email me at defytheaverage@gmail.com, or you can contact Marie
at mariesgold.com. We would love any kind of feedback from you, or questions, or we're better together.
Definitely. We want to hear your stories and your experiences. So you can hear us every week, Thursdays. And we would love for you to join us next week. I hope you have a great day.
Yes, enjoy.
We love you all.
Yes.
And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.